first-time homebuyer credit.
So should Washington do more to fix housing or less? Is it time to let the market do its own thing and let prices go to their natural levels? Connie De Groot is a realtor out in L.A. Mark Calabria is the director of regulation studies at the Cato Institute, joining us now. Connie, you're in the thick of it. You're in the trenches there. This first-time homebuyer credit's been extended. Some people say, for example, Carl Case in the last hour, let it go. Enough already. Let the market work. What do you think?
I think we should extend it and let it be in existence a little bit longer. I'm very, very excited that this administration has also elected to offer this to people that own a home, because there's just so few people that can qualify for a loan today, and obviously we want well-qualified buyers. So I think that this has worked. At one time, half of the home buyers were first-time home buyers. And let's not forget that it was just a couple years ago when we all thought that the banks were going to fall apart. We were thinking about where should we put our money, in a shoebox or something. I think that the government did something to jump in there because people were fearful. Even people that wanted to buy, they weren't going to buy anything. So I applaud this administration for extending it and also allowing people that make a little more, because then we're going to get more traditional buyers to get into the home buying process.
Okay,
because first-time home buyers take much longer to buy.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Mark, let's count up the various programs. We had stimulus for jobs. That hasn't worked. We had cash for clunkers. That just advanced purchases a little bit. We had the home buyer's credit. That advanced it. I mean, all of these government solutions don't seem to add up to real solutions.
Well, they're not. The point is that they're not actually fixing the problem. They're prolonging the adjustment. The problem is we had a housing bubble. We as a country built too much housing. Too much of that housing was being bought for speculative purposes. You had places like Las Vegas where probably 3/4 of the market at one time was speculation. Once the bubble burst, that speculation went away. The entire approach of Washington, and it's not just been this administration, it's been the last administration, has been how do you blow air back into that bubble?
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you have too much supply, the way to get rid of too much supply is you let prices fall. You know, the thing there's just been this disconnect that somehow as a I'm a homeowner, but I don't feel any better that tax credit's out there, because you might have propped up the value of my house, but you've also propped up the amount of taxes I'm going to have to pay in the future to buy it off. So none of these programs have actually increased the productivity of our economy, which is how you create growth. We've just tried to recreate asset bubbles, which are a huge mistake.
Connie, I want to go back to something that you said, and it pertains to this comment that he's just made, and that is where you said, you know, we want qualified buyers, but if you have to help them with $8,000 to be able to get into the home, this is what worries
How's that qualify?
us. Yeah, are you really qualifying if you couldn't do it without $8,000, which arguably isn't a lot? I mean, I'm just wondering if we aren't getting back into that same problem where we grease the skids too much for people.
Well, I'm not at all for that. If you don't have enough to pay your closing costs and to put a decent down payment, and I actually think that we should be required to put down much more than 3%. However, I'm working with first-time home buyers for the first time actually this year, and they don't need it to close, but they're excited by it because they're going to buy things for their place, and they're going to spend more than $8,000 on furnishings and improvements, especially if they're buying an existing home. So I see that it's working. Also, the National Association of Realtors is not for this because they're nice people. We are nice people, but they're for it because they hear their clients that it's important to them, that it's working, that people are motivated by that, of course, and to the low rates and low prices.
Mark,
So,
when you buy
a
house in a falling housing market, you're going to be underwater. I mean, that's what's been going on. It's a part of the recovery process.
We've seen that. About 11% of borrowers who bought last year are already underwater. That's the problem with this tax credit. I don't know that we're at a bottom, but if we're not at a bottom in price, all you need on a $200,000 home is prices to fall another 4 or 5%. In this so-called equity we've given you via a tax credit is already wiped out and you're underwater again. So to some extent, some of these programs are creating the foreclosures of tomorrow.
Oh,
you know, I would agree.
About.
I think
housing should be a long-term investment. It should be a long-term investment.
Yeah, it should be.
You should look at it as a long-term investment and not short-term.
Well, let's let the free market speak. I think that would be the best idea,
I
right,
agree
David?
with you 100% on that one.
Thank you both so much. We appreciate it. Here's
Thanks,
a look
guys.
at